You voted for it and I'll deliver it. Magic, wargraves, and revenge, all wrapped up in one single character. And boy, what a character. Illidan. Illidan is a twin brother of Malfurion and Stormrage. At birth, the two twins were promised for greatness, especially Illidan, who was born with eyes of amber. Now, you gotta understand that back then in Elven society, this was considered a gift of great destiny. Which is true for him, but they misinterpret it in a way. Because amber eyes are a sign of great druidic potential. But that potential doesn't mean you'll be good at it from the start, or that you won't have to work. Illidan and Malfurion would be trained by Cenarius, but only one of them will become archdruid, and Illidan will continue to struggle. But that's later on in their life. The twins grew up in Suramar, alongside their best friend, Tyrande Whisperwind. Both the twins would get a fancy for Tyrande, but unfortunately for Illidan, she only got a fancy for Malfurion, putting Illidan in a love triangle he shouldn't have been in. But that's a recurring theme in Warcraft, it seems. Maybe it was because of this, or not, that Malfurion and Tyrande found their way in life. But Illidan was still searching for his. He liked magic, he knew how to use it, and even though he wasn't a highborn, he was proficient enough to become the personal caster of Kurtalos Ravencrest. The elves, or night elves in this case, lived quite idyllic lives, for the most part. Sure, they were separated by castes, but their mortal life wasn't that terrible. Unfortunately, all these would change when Queen Azshara's treachery would be known to the rest of the elven population. By that point, Illidan found his way into the highborn ranks, and he finally thought he found his way in life. That all changed once the demon invasion started. Malfurion would manage to convince Illidan to leave his queen and join the resistance. And once the first battle between the resistance and the demons started, Malfurion and I think the rest of the elves, including Illidan, understood that the power of their foes was too big even for demigod Cenarius and the dragon aspects and their flight. Malfurion saw the might of the Burning Legion. He saw how powerful they were, and his only conclusion was that the only way to defeat them was to stop their advance into Azeroth. The only way to do this, he figured, was to destroy the Will of Eternity. The Will was what gave the elves their magic, and more importantly, their immortality. And Illidan did not like this. It would mean they would be cut from their birthright of magic and long life. Losing the Will was a price too dear for Illidan to pay. But during their fight against the demons, Illidan found himself mesmerized by the magic of the Burning Legion. He saw a chaotic purity in their magic and power, one that his Night Elven brethren lacked. Let's move a little bit on from this and get a little bit of other lore from the Night Elves. The Moonguard. I like these guys. They were an ancient order of Golden Eye Elves with a powerful control on magic. But they were not highborn. They hated the highborn. They also got a little bit of an ego complex that they found themselves looking down upon other casters and thought themselves to be greater. Now, the guard were only loyal to Queen Azshara, and in the beginning, the Moonguard didn't believe that Queen Azshara was to blame for this. She thought she was just a prisoner of Xavius and the other highborn that are using her so they can fulfill their dreams of becoming immortal or something, or destroying Kalimdor. It doesn't really matter. The idea is that the guard joined the rebels after they found out that their queen wasn't as pure and as golden as they initially thought. The Moon Guard was led by Latosius, and Latosius was an old elf criticized for seeing smaller things but never the greater picture of it, you know? And because of that, Latosius would meet his end thanks to a bolt from a warlock Eredar during a battle. Now, Ronin will make sure that the Eredar would not see the dawn of another day, but then, surprisingly, Illidan came and took control of the Moon Guard, and he seemed a pretty good commander to them, so they started following him, even renouncing their previous arrogance. But that wasn't really enough. After Illidan got his hold on the Moon Guard, he would misuse them. To say, he had the guard, rather than cast their own spells, have them, empower his own. And you can imagine that did not end up that well for the Moon Guard that were not supposed to use their own magic, because that left them open to many attacks from demons during the battle. At one point in Rockhood, Illidan managed to do something unspeakable. He drained his own soldiers of their life. That's how much he abused the Moon Guard. But we will later learn a more important lesson in that. It was in that moment when his men fell because they wasted all their magic to empower Illidan that he understood that sacrifice was a necessity when it comes to defeating a foe as strong as the Burning Legion. Oh yeah, let's circle back to something else we discussed here. Remember that Illidan was stuck in a love triangle? Well, during the war against the Burning Legion, Illidan tried his best to impress Tyrande. He would display power and magic and ability to lead like no other. But that made him take reckless risks, something that did not impress the then young priestess. And of course, Tyrande chose Malfurion. But Illidan still thought he had the chance with her. And then came a devil, like in Kel'Thas' story, that whispered in his ear, that poisoned him. That devil would be Savius, one of the Queen's most trustworthy excuse me for that, I mean Highborn. Now, Savius came to him and tried to cloud his mind, that only his brother's death could bring Tyrande into Illidan's arms. But the words of the conniving Savius did not manage to put him over the edge. It did manage to make him more thoughtful of what he spoke. No. You see, there was another thing that pushed him over that edge. And it was when Illidan saw Tyrande into the arms of his brother. It would not take a month, a week, or even a day for Illidan to make up his mind. It was then, in that very moment, that Illidan decided to leave the Defenders. We're going to jump to an unspecified point in time, and we're going to do so because, quite frankly, we have no other data about it than this. After leaving the Defenders, Illidan would defeat a powerful Doom Guard known as Azinot. And after slaying him, Illidan would take his Warglaives as his own. How that battle happened and when is an information that has not been disclosed to us. And at this rate, we will probably never know any more details than what we already know. But now Illidan had the glaives of a strong demon, and he decided to do what he planned. With his warglaives in hand, he left to the Queen's palace. There, he would pretend to pledge allegiance to the Legion and Azshara, but he would have his own plan devised. Illidan's plan was to use the demon's soul to close the Well of Eternity and stop the demon's advance. But for him to be able to do so, he would need power. More power than he currently had. And so Illidan decided that it would be the best to make his plan a little bit more on the side of the invaders. Thus, Illidan brought his plan on retrieving the demon souls to Sargeras. The Fallen Titan was pleased with this plan, and as a gift, or curse, Sargeras used his powers to remove Illidan's eyes and grant him green fiery orbs instead. Those orbs would grant him the ability to see all kinds of magic everywhere. And, to mark him as one of their own, Illidan's body would be covered in fell tattoos. But Sargeras offered Illidan something else. A vision of the Burning Legion. The true Legion. And all its immense power and numbers. Illidan knew then that defeating the Legion in Azeroth would not end it. So, he decided he would have to defeat them for good. For those of you that are lucky, you can experience this event.
Ancient memory stirs. When you are prepared, call to me, and together we will uncover a piece of Illidan's past.
own strength. Beyond this army is another, and another, and another. Even if we defeat them here, it will mean nothing. We are doomed. Unless we find another way to fight them. And I will find that way.
With his eyes burned out for seeing the truth, Illidan still did not falter. Even under the gaze of the Lord of the Burning Legion, Illidan remained resolute and defiant.
Queen Azshara would be fascinated by Illidan, this new Illidan. But he knew better. He remained cautious and wary of her advances. It wouldn't have been a good idea to fall into the trap of the Queen. Later on, Illidan would be sent with the captain of the Queen's Guard, Varuten, to retrieve the Dragon Soul, or Demon Soul. Either works, from Deathwing. They wouldn't take the soul from Deathwing because Malfurion got it before them. But they would manage to capture Malfurion and the soul. With the soul in their hands, the Highborn and the Burning Legion would use it to amplify the Well of Eternity. So Dassar Garrus, who couldn't enter Azeroth yet, could step forward from the well and conquer the world in the name of the Burning Legion. Malfurion would manage to escape, and alongside with Illidan, they returned to the Kaldorei Resistance. And as you can probably expect, of course the Resistance did not trust Illidan. You know, he took the weapons of a demon, he joined the ranks of the demons, gave them the soul, captured Malfurion. It's not a good image for Illidan at this point. But somehow, thanks to Malfurion's kind words, Illidan will be let to help them against the Burning Legion. And together, the two twins would work to collapse the Well of Eternity. Malfurion would manage to cast a spell in a battle against Queen Azshara so powerful that it threw all the demons directly into the well and back to the twisting nether from which they came from. And he managed to do that before destroying the portal and overcharging it with the soul. Thus the plan to have Sargeras come into Azeroth failed. But there's a small caveat about this. One that nobody really foresaw. Once Malfurion managed to destroy the portal, the well imploded on itself in such a vast and violent way it would split the supercontinent of Kalimdor apart, creating the continents we are now used to. The defenders and the highborn that joined in their fight against Queen Azshara would flee from the palace and set sail on ships to avoid being eaten by the Maelstrom and getting drowned with the rest of Azshara's highborn. But before that, while the well still had water in it, before it all went awry, Illidan made sure to take a few vials containing the waters from the Well of Eternity for future use. After the events of the War of the Ancient, as it will become known, Malfurion and the rest of the Kaldoroi resistance ordered that Arcane magic would be illegal, in a way to stop another invasion from the Burning Legion, and in another to replace it with the more clean and eco-friendly druidistic magic of Cenarius. The Highborn were not really that pleased with it, but before the Highborn decided to do their own thing, Illidan decided he wouldn't listen. So he climbed the highest peak of Hyjal Mountain, the place that the Night Elves now called home, and there he found a small lake, and into that small lake he would pour the vials containing the waters from the Well of Eternity. The lake would be twisted by the waters from it. It would twist and turn, and violent energies will come out of it. But it stabilized at some point, and from it a new Well of Eternity would be created. Illidan was overjoyed with this fact, but he would not get to enjoy this victory that much, because that fate, as well, it happens, as fate makes it happen, he was found by Malfurion, Tyrande, and the rest of the new leaders of the Night Elves. They were all horrified and enraged at Illidan for doing this. Malfurion tried to scold his brother that it was this very kind of magic that brought the Burning Legion into this world. It was this kind of magic that destroyed everything they ever had before. It was this kind of magic that would ruin them. Yet Illidan continued that they would need magic should the Burning Legion invade once more. And Illidan saw his brother as nothing but a fool, too scared to use their birthright, their power. Malfurion, seeing his brother shows no remorse for his actions, at first wanted to have him executed. But, as brotherly love makes it, he decided he would be imprisoned. Imprisoned so far down below the earth that Illidan would not be seen by anybody else again. Malfurion would, from time to time, come to the depths of the earth, to the warden's prison, to see his brother, and try to convince him of the folly of his way. But one day, those visits ended, and time would forget about Illidan, about his plan, about his sacrifices. And Illidan would learn that time only takes